Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Walzer Berkowitz, and I run a company called R&J Advisory Group. And what we're going to be talking about today is, are you playing to win or hoping not to lose during this crisis? Let's go ahead and we will begin. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank Herrmann Pro AV. Herrmann and R&J Advisory Group, my company, we've been working together for about 2.5 years now. And what I do basically is I'm a strategy growth coach, and I've been helping Herrmann, the executive team, helping them scale up their company for absolute success, which is what they recently just achieved a few months ago. And they are a fabulous team to work with. I absolutely enjoy working with them, and I just want to thank them for inviting me to come here today and share some best practices that I believe, if I were in your shoes, the things that I would do in terms of stabilizing and strengthening your business during this crisis. And just a little history on me, I had started a company about 17 years ago as an online data backup and recovery company in Manhattan that I had scaled up and ultimately sold. So I'm a multiple time CEO. I've been in your shoes, and I'm excited to share some ideas with you guys today. So I don't know if this picture resonates with most, if not all of you, but how many of you feel like you're in this spot right now where you're like this guy where you just feel like, what the hell is going on? So much uncertainty with this crisis. We don't know 1 week to 1 month from now what's happening. It's a common feeling, and I want you to know that you are absolutely not alone. You might also be feeling like this guy too, where your employees or your team, your clients, you just feel like you're dragging. You've got so much on you right now, and you feel like you just, as much as you want to move fast, you just can't right now. Almost like COVID's representing this anchor where it's just holding you back. And again, I just want you to be aware that you're not alone. We're all feeling this way. And I want you to know that it's okay to feel this way, but there's things that we're going to be doing during this conversation today to help you to get out of that mindset. And you might also feel like this girl, where you've probably watched enough webinars, you've probably seen enough television newscasts and newspapers that you feel like you're just drinking out of a fire hose and you're just overwhelmed with too much information. I hear you. I get it. I can promise you the next half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, however long we'll be together, I can promise you that the information I'm going to share with you is going to be completely valid. And my hope is that if you can just take away one solid nugget from this, one great takeaway, this will be absolutely valuable to your business going forward. And whether you're the CEO of your company or whether you are a team member who's supporting your executive team, there will be great takeaways for you regardless of your role, okay? Okay, let's go ahead. And the thing I want you to be aware of is that you actually have all the answers. It's the questions you don't know. And I want you, in this conversation together that we're going to have today, I want you to start thinking differently and start thinking about different questions to be asking yourself and your business to start pivoting your business differently. Everything I share with you guys today, it's simple, it's practical, and it is actionable. I have a lot of tools I'm going to be sharing with you. And then after this seminar is over, I will give you my email address, and just go ahead and email me. I will send you all of these tools. I'll even share this presentation with you, whatever you need. I'm happy to share all of these great tools because I feel like they're very, very useful. I use some with my clients today, and they've helped them significantly pivot through this crisis. Okay, how we're going to be talking today, or how I'm going to go through this journey with you guys, is I look at business in 4 major areas. The first area is around your people. Do you have the right people sitting in the right seats doing the right things right? Is it giving you that happiness where you enjoy working with everyone and that everyone is holding themselves accountable to getting what they need to get done, right? You know that feeling where you just really love what you're doing, your team's loving what they're doing, they're getting their stuff done. That's all about your people side. The next area is around your strategy. Do you have a solid strategy that gives you that top line revenue growth? That's what it's all about. That differentiating factor that differentiates you, gives you that top line growth that you're looking for every year. The third area is execution. Execution for me, it's really about all of your processes running without drama. It's about, is everything that you're doing giving you that bottom line profit? And are you efficient with what you're doing? Because obviously if you're not efficient in how you're running your business, your profits won't be there. So that whole area we'll be talking about today is around execution. And then the last area we'll be talking about is around your cash. I like to call this your oxygen, because if you don't have oxygen, you're not going to breathe, right? So it's all about making sure you're generating enough cash to be able to have new, different options to maneuver in this crisis. So these are the 4 areas we're going to be talking about. But within these 4 areas, I'm going to be discussing 3 subparts. One, what are the things I think you absolutely must be doing right now, like a non-negotiable? These are the things you must be doing as it relates to these 4 areas. Second, what opportunities do I think you should capitalize on? Look, do what you want with it, but I'm going to suggest strongly that these are some things that by you doing these things, that will absolutely help you in your business. And then the third thing is I'm going to share some tools, some resources that might be helpful for you in those areas to continue to move forward. Okay, so each of these areas, that's how the conversation is going to be today. And at the end, this is going to be completely interactive. I'm happy to share any questions that you have. I have all the time in the world for you guys, so we'll just do some Q&A afterwards, okay? So here we go. So let's first talk about people. Now, whether you like this guy or not, whether you are a Republican, whether you are a Democrat, I think we can all agree that this guy is doing a phenomenal job in New York. So Governor Cuomo, the one thing that I believe he's absolutely doing right, and something you must be doing right now, is you must be over communicating. This guy is on the news every single day sharing news. But here's what makes him so great. He is vulnerable, and he's starting off with the bad news, just the real, like the facts. He doesn't sandwich it with good news, and just kind of shove in the bad news. He starts off straight up with the bad news, and then he comes out with the good news afterwards. The reason why this is so critical is because if you try to sandwich good news and the bad news in the good news, you're not coming across authentic. People are going to be wondering, when you start off with good news, okay, well, when is the bad news coming? And oh God, you're starting off with good news. I know bad news is coming. So they can't even enjoy the good news because they know the other stuff's there. So I can't stress this enough. Be vulnerable with your team and over communicate. If you're used to talking to people once a month, once a week, double it. If it's once a week, do it twice a week. And again, I can't stress this enough. Share the negative stuff first and be specific. And if you start to sugarcoat with a lot of different verbiage that is just bluffing, people are going to see right through it. Just be straight, be clear, and do not hold back. Your team will appreciate that. The second thing I think is an absolute is you must be taking care of yourself right now. I've seen it from other people, from friends of mine, and even including myself from years ago, where I would just work nonstop. There was no downtime, and you can get sick. And if you get sick, you know that you can't take care of anyone. So you must take care of yourself first. So I'm a big fan of asking your team, how are you doing? What kind of self-care are you doing right now? Your team is working from home most of the time. I'm assuming at this point in time, they're all working from home, and they're all probably working crazy hours because they don't know how to separate their home life and their work life. Make sure they are taking care of themselves. Think of some things that you can be doing to help them break off that difference, because if they don't take care of themselves, you're going to have fewer employees coming back to. Here is an area that I think is a good opportunity. Again, you don't have to be doing this, but this is a huge opportunity for you to do right now, this is called the talent assessment. I believe that each of your people on your team fall into one of these categories. And what happens is, the way you look at it is you look at your core values. What are your values? What are your beliefs in your business? And then your productivity. How productive are these people in your business? So an A player would be someone who adheres to your core values and is just amazing at productivity. Those are your A players. Those are the ones you want to keep on your team. Something to think about is that if you were to start this business all over again, would you be literally running down the street, running after your team? Because if you're not running after your team, you probably don't have A players. You want to make sure that now more than ever, you have A players. There are so many people on the street right now. You got to be looking for great people. They're out there. A B performer, they're good. It's just you got to make sure you're coaching them up and helping them with productivity. The BC performers usually become BC performers because they used to be probably A people that when you're tolerating having C players that are not good people and they're tolerating them, they usually say, you know what, I don't care as much anymore because you're tolerating the bad people. This is a time right now where you need to seriously look at your team and say, do I have the right people sitting in the right seats doing the right things right? This is the time to be doing that, because when this crisis is over and you go back to work, you want to make sure that you have a strong team to go with. There are so many companies right now that are laying off people. Now is the time to be out there looking and finding those people. Everyone is laying off. This is the time to be looking. And if you can't hire financially right now, create a bench. Go find people that down the road you'll be able to hire them. Create that bench now. Start those relationships, build those relationships, so when you can financially do it, you can do it. This guy figured out a way, he was struggling with trying to find new hires, and he found that, and I thought this is a really good example of trying to be unique in an industry, where the economy was always hard to find new people. This guy is in the trash collecting business, and he realized that by going to gyms and finding people who like to work out, it was a win-win. He figured out that people who like to work out during the day, why not get paid for it? So he was able to find great people. And again, you have to think uniquely on how you can go out and find new people for your business. This is another great example, especially because this, you guys are all tech people. This was Google trying to they actually did this. I think it was on top of Yahoo's building, or near Yahoo's building in San Francisco, where they created this test. And then obviously if you figured it out, it would take you to Google's hiring page. And then from there you would sign up and potentially get a job. I just wanted to share these ideas because in times like this, you've got to think differently. You've got to figure out ways to get great people to come to your business. Another thing I'm going to suggest strongly that you do is, now is a great time while you're working from home, working remotely, is to start creating a list of at least the top 25, if not the top 250 relationships. What I mean by relationships, these are not just customers or suppliers or vendors of yours, but people of influence, people who you might know or you should get in touch with, not to solicit anything. You don't want to try to sell them anything, but just to say hello. How are you? Is there anything I can do for you? Just to keep that relationship strong, because you never know down the road when you do need those relationships, those phone calls. Now is the time to start building those influential relationships. So start by just getting a sheet of paper and making a list of who are the people that might know someone that need to know down the road. So again, if you're looking to hire people, who's someone of influence that might have access to those people you want to meet, and so forth. And I'm also a huge fan of, if you don't know what to do, especially if you're trying to pivot with something and you don't know what to do, I am a huge fan of asking the who. If you don't know what to do, who can you ask that will help you? My clients tease me because I'm always suggesting that they ask the who. If you don't know something, who can help you figure that out? Who in your company would know that answer? The who question is a very, very powerful question to ask yourself, because I guarantee you probably have that one step away from the person who can get that answer for you. This is a tool that I can send you guys afterwards. And as I mentioned, I can send you the, my email afterwards, and everything that I'm showing you, I'm happy to share with you. This is the tool I explained earlier. This is your talent assessment chart. That what you do is you make a list of all the people that report to you, just your direct reports. Start by looking at each person and figuring out where on that chart do they fit in. Now, I am a huge believer that everyone, even if they are an A player, needs a retention plan, because A players can easily leave. So the question is, what are you doing to retain them, to keep them happy? The B players, what are you doing to help them get up into an A position? If they're a B, C player, there's usually a reason to why they're sitting there. Either there's something personal going on for them, or something that's going on corporate-wise that's causing them to be like that. You got to investigate and figure that out and help them through it. And then C, my only answer on C players is, what day are they being released? There's no point in keeping C players during an economy like this. This is the time where you got to clean up and get stronger. So again, I can send you this tool afterwards. Okay, so that's about people. So the next thing I want to talk to you guys about is about strategy. So I'm sure that a lot of you in the beginning of the year or towards the end of last year, you started working on your annual plan and you said, okay, what are we going to look like in 2020, 2023? You set up your big, hairy, audacious goals. You have your annual plan. You were all ready to rock and roll and start building towards that. And then the COVID virus happened. And now probably you're most likely feeling like you're in a thunderstorm where you can't even see past 1 week, 1 month. And again, I totally understand, and I can, and that's okay right now. So my suggestion for you is, don't lose sight of your BHAG, but your BHAG may have changed. So let's just put it aside for right now. And we need to be focusing on that short-term window to get yourself out of it. So my suggestion is don't get stressed out that you're off on your BHAG, but focus on what's going to get you to get out of there. So everything that you're doing right now, I'm a big fan of. Just focus on short term, get your team out of this rut, pivot so that you can then go back into your BHAG in the next few months. The one thing that you must not do is you cannot change your core ideologies. And what I mean by your ideologies, these are your values, who you are, why you exist. I have seen in the news of companies that have lost sight, screwing their employees over, screwing over so many people, and it's going to get back and bite them. Don't lose sight of it. Take care of your people. Focus on your values. Look at everything that you're doing. Are the activities that you're doing during this crisis adhering to your core values and to who you are? And if it's not, I want you to really think through that, because your core ideologies is to what, that's why your employees came to you. That is why your clients love you so much. It's truly because of who you are and the soul that you guys are as a team. Another thing that I believe is really important to do right now is, with all the anxiety going on in this climate where we have no idea when things are going to come back. Now, I know I live in Florida and we're starting to hear that we're going into phase 1. No one really has an idea of when is business getting back to business, right? We know maybe when vaccines happen, but until then, there's a lot of anxiety. So my suggestion is put a stake in the sand. Say, okay, get together with your team and say, guys, we're going to get back into the office, or this is when, let's just say August 1st. August 1st is when we're going to do X. We're going to get back into the office in a socially distant world. We're going to do these types of things. Just put a stake in the sand. Call it August 1st, call it July 1st, call it September 1st. It doesn't matter. But by you guys aligning yourselves and coming together with one date and saying, this is when things are going to happen, it's going to decrease your anxiety level, A. B, it's going to align your team to all be focused on a common goal, which is that common date and all the activities that you have to do towards that. And 3, worst comes to worst, if it's wrong, it's wrong. But at least you have that alignment with your team. And then if it's off, you could then go to the next one. But I found that by doing that with each of my clients, their team has just gotten really focused, aligned. The whole company has gotten aligned with those dates, getting everything organized, and they get excited by it. And worst comes to worst, like I said, it needs to get tweaked, they tweak it, but they're all aligned with it. And I've noticed that it's made a huge difference on productivity. Another opportunity I think is a good idea to do right now is to run a SWOT analysis. But let me be clear with what I mean by a SWOT analysis. Now, you've probably heard of the whole concept of SWOT, which is the whole strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. But this is a little bit different. I'm suggesting that you take your team together and start focusing on the SWOTs as it relates to the crisis right now. In other words, what are your strengths right now that you're in control of that you must protect more than ever in this short-term period? The same thing with like opportunities. What trends, opportunities are showing up right now during this crisis that would help your business grow faster, maybe be more profitable, or become more valuable? Where can you shift? Maybe there's a new opportunity for a different customer base that you guys can target because of what's going on. So again, so what I'm going to suggest you do is run this analysis just as it relates to COVID. Not, we're so strong as, we're the AV leader of Cleveland. No. I want you to focus on as it relates to the crisis, because there's some new opportunities that can come out of it. Now, being that you're all remote, there are some cool tools that you can use to collaborate. I'm a huge fan of Jamboard, which is a free tool from Google. Just look up Jamboard. It's one word, Jamboard. Is a great way. It's just a simple tool where you can, it's like a whiteboard where you can put stickies up. A more sophisticated tool that I've used is called mural.co. That's a great tool, again, to collaborate, put some stickies up on a frame, say, okay, guys, what do we believe are our top 5 strengths? Now, one of the things I've been doing with my clients during this crisis is we've been looking at these 4 areas and then saying, okay, what are those top 5 strengths? What are those top 5 weaknesses? And then what we do is say, okay, how do we solve that? What's the action plan to protect that strength? And what's the action plan to look at those weaknesses? So once you start looking at those action plans, you can come up with a short-term project plan based on those activities and look at what's the most important and what's going to give you that biggest domino effect. But you can look at that and say, hey, great, let's do that and let's focus on it, so that way you can pivot quicker. I mentioned this in the other slide, but this is a great time also to evaluate your current customer base. Maybe your current customer, maybe there's another opportunity you can give to your current client base, or maybe there's an opportunity to look at a new client base that's emerging because of what's going on. Again, this is such a great opportunity right now to really evaluate who your customer is and what you can provide for them. This tool that I just talked about, I'm happy to send to you guys afterwards. Again, I will send you guys my email address at the very end, and you are welcome to try this out. And my suggestion again is get your team together, come up with your top 5 of each of these areas, and then look at, well, what would be the action item? How can we fix this? It's great, great team activity. Okay, let's go to execution next. So I don't know if any of you have heard of this whole story between Ivy Lee and Charles Schwab, but it is a fabulous story, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of you. Basically, this is how it goes. One day, a management consultant named Ivy Lee, he called on Schwab, who was the CEO of Bethlehem Steel Company, and Lee was basically just outlining his services, ending with the statement saying, with our service, you'll know how to manage your team better. Now, Schwab said, I'm not managing as well as I know I need to, but it's not so much about knowing, but more doing. That's what we're challenged with. So if you can give us a tool or something to pep us up to do the things that we already know what we need to do, I'll definitely listen to you and I'll pay you anything that you ask. So Lee says, fine, I'll give you something in 20 minutes that will step up your action and have you do at least 50% more. So Schwab says, okay, I just have that much amount of time before I have to leave and catch a train. What's your idea? So Lee pulls out a blank 3x5 note sheet out of his pocket, hands it to Schwab, and says, okay, write on this sheet the 5 most important tasks that you have to do tomorrow. Took him like 3 minutes to do it. And then he said, okay, put the sheet in your pocket and then pull the sheet out every 15 minutes and just look at it until, and don't focus on anything else until that number 1 item is finished. So like the next day, Schwab would go to his office. He would just be obsessed with number one until he got it done. He would then go to number 2 and so on. And then as he started completing the list, he would create his next group of priorities. And he said, don't be concerned if you only finish 1 or 2, just focus on the most important one. And then the others can wait. And if you can't finish them all by this method, you couldn't with another one. So just stay focused, just keep finishing it. And he also said, spend the last 5 minutes of every working day making out a must-do list for the next day's task. So again, you're keeping that list until it needs to be updated. And then after you convince yourself that it's the worth of the system, have your other men on your team try it. Try it out as long as you wish, and then send me a check for what you think it's worth. Well, the whole interview literally took about 25 minutes. And in 2 weeks, you ready for this, you guys? 2 weeks, Schwab sent Lee a check for $25,000. Now, this is like the 1920s, whenever it was, which is basically like $1,000 a minute. And he added a note saying the lesson was the most profitable lesson from a money standpoint that he had ever learned. Did it work? Well, we know what happened to Schwab. In 5 years, he turned this unknown little steel company into the biggest independent steel producer in the world. And it made Schwab a $100 million fortune. And then he was the best man known for steel in the world. And obviously the rest is history. So the lesson for this is all about staying focused on your top priorities. If I were to ask your team right now, what is the number 1 priority of the business? Would every single person in your company say the same thing? Regardless if you're a 10-person office, you're a 100-person office, or you're a 1,000-person office, or even a 500,000-person office, would everyone be saying the same thing? Most of the time, my answer, probably what I'd be hearing is no. And that is what's difficult, and I find why companies aren't as profitable as they can be, because what is everyone getting up and working towards? If they don't have a common goal, then people are just showing up for work and saying, okay, what should I be working on today? Not a good way to execute. So I love this movie. You guys probably remember that movie, but I'm a big fan of this picture saying you must have a priority. You must have a priority. So I'm going to encourage you to start asking around to your team and making sure that you all are aligned on the common goal. And make sure, by the way, that this goal is going to give you that domino effect. Don't just do something because it's easy to do. Do it because it's going to give you that domino effect. And that's why that whole SWOT analysis toolbox that I had shown you guys earlier is really powerful, to be looking at what do we believe is the most critical thing that we need to deal with right now, and make sure that everyone is in alignment and everyone's focused on the common goal. and everyone has a part on how they're going to get there. So you do need to know your priorities. So the question I ask of you is, does everyone in your organization know what the key priorities are, and do they understand how their role contributes towards achieving these priorities? I can tell you guys, this is the number one thing that I see when I come into start working with companies, the lack of having that alignment. And once that alignment is there and everyone understands on that common goal, magic happens. And I can honestly tell you, magic happens. Millions and millions in profits happen because of it. It's unbelievable. And it's so simple too. So focus on that. Because if you're all rowing together, obviously you're going to go very fast. But most businesses, everyone's rowing at their own time, and then they wonder why their profit margins aren't the same. Well, there's your answer. Here's a perfect visual image of that. Another thing that you must do is you must know your metrics. So right now, more than ever, metrics can either harm or help you. I know of companies where one company, a big trucking company, national, their average truckloads are pretty much the same on a weekly basis. But had they been measuring it continue to measure it on a weekly basis during this crisis and not start looking at it on a daily basis, they would have missed on a huge issue, which was their loads started to drop on day 2 of that week. And because they started tracking it daily instead of weekly because of this crisis, they were able to maneuver very, very fast and see what was going on and fix things. So if you're just measuring certain things maybe once a week, once a month, I'm going to encourage you to start looking at, maybe during this crisis, you should start looking at things differently, faster. Because if you don't watch out to some of these changes, because things are changing so fast right now, there's an opportunity. So my suggestion is look at some of these metrics. And if you're not tracking things daily, look at the things that if we were to track it faster, what kind of impact would it be on our business? Metrics. You know, I always say that if you're not measuring something, how the hell are you managing it? So that's a really big question for you for today. If you're not measuring it, how the hell are you managing it? Everything in your business should be measured. The more you're measuring, the more you can control and manage your business. I'm also a huge fan of looking at your metrics visually. Now, I understand we can't be in the same office right now with your team, but even if you can do it online, if you guys are running meetings visually via Zoom, whatnot, have it visual in people's minds. What is that number one goal? What's that number one metric right now that you guys are obsessing over? Usually there's probably just a handful of, not even just one right now during this crisis that you as a team should be focusing on. Maybe it's revenue right now. Maybe it's installations, whatever it is, but what is that one metric that's going to really help you understand where your business is right now that everyone needs to be aligned towards and figure out how can we make it faster, cheaper, whatever that number is, and change it. Again, just looking at a company, and how they were showing their metrics. This is a great free library I'm a big fan of. It's called kpilibrary.com. It's free. You can sign up. I have yet to ever get spammed by them, so I'm just going to tell you, unless they change their rules tomorrow, but you can just put your name in. There's thousands of KPIs available. What you do is you look in your industry, so you go in the AV industry and you say, okay, what role am I looking to get measurements on? And it gives you a ton of stuff. So big resource I'm a big fan of. Another thing, and I started to mention at the beginning of our conversation together, which is about communicating daily. I like doing daily huddles with teams. And when I say teams, so the executive team would start off with their huddle, and then the department heads would start with their groups, and so on. And each group would have, it's literally no more than 5 to 10 minutes. But you must be doing this daily. It will absolutely speed up your business, ensure your teamwork. It helps relationships by talking every day. And the way it would work is it's more like 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes if you're a really big team. But basically, what you ask is, what's the number one thing you're working on today? What did you get done today? Are there metrics that we should be looking at daily that someone would be responsible for bringing them into the meeting? Are you stuck? If so, where can we help you? This is not a full-on meeting. This is a, hey, Stacy, I'm stuck on this. Can you help me after this at 2 p.m. today? And Stacy can say, sure. Right. We don't have the whole conversation in the meeting because everyone's on the huddle, but we then take it offline. But by everyone sharing what their number one priority is of the day, it will help you to hear, are we working on the most critical things? And this goes back to our number one priority. Is everyone aligned with what we're doing? And is what everyone's working on, helping your whole company towards a common goal. Otherwise, you could end up like that guy in that second picture where he's pulling that anchor. You'll feel like you're pulling that anchor if no one's working on and then that aligned state of mind. So I can talk about it in more detail if anyone wants to talk about it offline. I'm happy to talk more about how these huddles work, but it's really, really powerful. Another awesome tool I love, love, love that I want to suggest for you guys is this whole who, what, when concept. Really easy. Anytime you guys are in a meeting, who, what, when. This is how it works. You can put it in Excel. So let's say I'm just going to use the name Stacy again. Hey, Stacy, can you take care of calling John Doe over at XYZ company? Because I can't reach them. Can you get a hold of them and deal with them? Stacy says, hey, sure, I can do that. This is your typical meeting. So then what we do is we put Stacy's name of the who. What is she going to do? She's going to call John Doe to resolve the accounts receivable issue. And when is she going to do it by? She's going to let us know. Stacy's going to say, sure, I can get it done by tomorrow. Great. So we put tomorrow's date on. During your meeting, every time someone has something that they need to get done by someone else, you put it in there. It's basically creating this whole culture of accountability. And what happens is then at the end of your meeting, you will go through all of these open items. Okay, did you get this done from last week? Yes or no? And it's just a rolling, ongoing, active list. You add new ones in your meeting, and then the old ones, as long as they're still open, you go through them and make sure that they are getting done. Because the problem in meetings is that Stacy says she's going to get it done, but then it goes out into cyberspace. I have no idea if she actually got it done. And truthfully, I'm so busy with my job, I don't have time to sit there and police her. So this little tool that we use in meetings can basically take care of that whole questioning mindset. So now, let's just say we're having this meeting once a week. The next week, hey, Stacy, did you get that done last Tuesday? She'll say, yep, great, we cross it off. And that's the way it works. So it's called who, what, when, the triple W's, however you want to call it. But it's a very simple tool that will start building that culture of accountability. Okay, so let's go to cash next. This is a perfect time to clean up and catch up. This is the time where I have found on multiple occasions where businesses and my clients I've seen where by them starting to analyze all of their purchases, expenses, huge opportunity to start cleaning up. I've seen one client where they had 2 CRM systems they were paying for, one they weren't even using. In my own business, I remember when we did these cleanup and catch up times, my head of technology once said to me, Jen, why are we spending so much on these servers? We ended up saving, just by him looking at it, I think we saved like $250,000 in one quarter. It was a huge opportunity. The way I would look at it is that if you take your P&L statement, I believe that when you look at your P&L statement, there actually should be another column, and the column should have a who next to it. The column should be who owns those line items. So in my example, from my old company, my head of technology should be on our technology expense. My operations person, finance person, every single line item in your business should have an owner to it. And then the question is how are they managing it? How are they ensuring that they're keeping their budgets low? So right now, because of the way this crisis is, and because I'm sure like many of you, the revenues may have gone down a bit because of the stoppage of working, this is a huge opportunity to look at all of your expenses. Why are you spending this money? Big fan of the why. Why are you doing this? Act like a 6-year-old. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why are we running this process? Why are we doing that? There's a huge opportunity for you guys to start saving money. This is a tool that I'm going to suggest as a way to help you figure this out. And this is called the cash conversion cycle. And I'll explain it in more detail in a second. But at a high level, this is the way it works. You basically look at the moment you spend that dollar on sales and marketing to the moment you get that dollar back, the way you earn that dollar back through like the invoicing, you actually get the cash in hand. That whole cycle from then when you spend that dollar to when you get that dollar is called the cash conversion cycle. And I like to break it down into 4 areas. You've got your sales process, you've got your production, your inventory. So this is, when you're getting all your equipment in, your delivery, when you're out there installing all of your AV equipment, and then your billing and your payment cycle. And this is the way it works. Let me just move my picture here so you guys can see. But what I'm going to suggest, this is the tool I can send you guys. This is the way it works. is I want you to break it down into the 4 of those areas and brainstorm the following. So let's say you're looking at your sales and marketing cycle. The question to ask yourself is, what are some things that we're doing that if we fix, we could shorten those cycle times? So one way you might be able to improve your sales cycle to shorten the cycle time could be, maybe your contracts are so clumsy and very big and bulky. Maybe by cleaning up your contracts, that would shorten your sales cycle because you don't have to go back and forth with legal as much, and that would get your sales cycle to go quicker. Also, eliminating mistakes. What are things that in your sales cycle that you can do to eliminate mistakes? Maybe you can figure out a way to have a sales engineer on the call with you to try to sell to that client faster and reduce the amount of mistakes of conversations. Maybe you can improve your business model and improve your P&L. So again, look at your sales and marketing. What are the things that you can do, again, shorten the sales cycle or shorten the cycle, eliminate mistakes, and potentially improve your business model. Then you go to the next area. Okay, what are all the things that we're doing during our production and inventory cycle that we're doing that's taking forever? That, this is such a great brainstorming opportunity. Again, for delivery and your billing and payment cycle. Again, I want you to look at it from the moment you spend that dollar to the moment you get that dollar back. How do you make it go faster? This is a great tool for you to collaborate on as a team and say, hey guys, we're going to spend an hour on this. Everyone start to think of different ideas. It is a great opportunity to start cleaning up your business. And again, I can send this tool to you guys afterwards. It's a great tool. A lot of the tools I'm talking about came out of this book called Scaling Up. It's actually a book that changed my life. I remember, gosh, it's been like 15, 20 years ago. I read, it was actually the first version called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. One of my friends sent it to me, actually kind of threw it at me because I was really stressed out running my company because it was growing really fast and I wasn't sure how to maneuver through it. And I read this book and it truly, truly changed my life. The tools and the things that I'm sharing with you guys today came out of that book. The book, it has so much knowledge in it, so much incredible content. I can tell you that once I read that book, once I started implementing the book, my whole business, my online data backup and recovery business completely changed. I no longer was working in the business, working 80 hours a week to the point where I had an amazing team of people running the company. I was no longer in the day-to-day. And then ultimately I sold my company for many millions. I don't have to work again. I do what I do now because I absolutely love what I do. And my whole purpose in life is to give others the same freedom I have today. This book was one method to how it happened for me. So I'm a big fan of buying this book. Read it. I hope it'll change your life the way it changed mine. The growth tools that it comes out of it, I can send you guys these growth tools. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of tools in there. I'm just showing a handful of them to you. But this is the methodology that I teach other clients. And I work with very motivated CEOs who want to scale up their businesses and want to have the same freedom I have. And that's what gets me to jump out of bed every day. I love it. So these tools are great. And I'm happy to share the resources with you guys. The question I have for all of you is, how much of what we talked about today did you already know? And we all know knowing versus doing, right? It's the same analogy. I'm sure that you guys probably knew 99% of this, but actually taking that one, those nuggets away and doing it are a whole different story. So my request from you all is take action. Do one thing, whether it's a SWOT analysis, doing a communication, doing a town hall with your team, looking at a talent assessment, making sure you've got the right people, making that list of the 250 or even top 10 people that you haven't been in touch with that you just want to say hello to. Go take a walk outside for self-care and make some phone calls. That will all help you. And here's a little video that I like. I hope the video turns out okay. Volume is bad. So my takeaway thoughts for you all is play to win. Don't just survive, thrive. I know you guys can do it. I think that crises are just, it's opportunities in disguise. That's truly what it is. I think that every business goes like this, but it's an opportunity to go up. Just remember that a crisis is just an opportunity in disguise. How you're going to maximize your opportunity is really up to you. Here is my information. I thank you guys so much. I'm here for Q&A. I will open it up. This is my contact information. I am happy to have conversations anytime if you want to go into more detail on how these tools work. If you want a copy of these tools, I am happy to share anything. It is my absolute pleasure. And so what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to stop this PowerPoint presentation right now. And okay, and now I'm going to set it up for Q&A. So anyone have any questions? I am opening up the questions now. So my first question for you guys is, and what we'll do is when you have an answer, just raise your hand. Is I'm curious, have any of you had some unique ways that you've been pivoting through this crisis? Any great experience shares that you want to share that's been working for you guys? Anything that's helped you through this crisis? Any tools that have helped you and so forth? I'd love to hear about it. So does anyone want to share? Just raise your hand if you have anything you want to share. Quiet group today. Some teams I speak to, it's like everyone has their hands up. You guys are a quiet bunch. Oh, here we got a question. Let me see. So David King, thank you for sharing. I don't know if you want to share if you're willing to share over through this medium, but you mentioned that you hold daily WebEx team calls. I'm curious if he says he doesn't want to do it, but your team likes it. Would you be willing to share maybe about what it is that you're doing that if you are willing to do it, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. But I would love to hear what's working on those WebEx team calls. Oh, he lost his voice, so he says he can't. I hope your laryngitis goes away. But but your team likes it. And I would venture to guess your team probably likes it because it's communication. Your team, right, or any of you guys, your teams are craving communication right now. So staying connected is key. I couldn't agree more, 100%. What about anyone else? Anyone else want to share some things that are working or things that you regret doing even? Or any kind of best practices that have been working for you? Just raise your hand if you guys have any thoughts. Does anyone want me to talk in more detail about any of the topics I talked about? We have a shy group. Oh, we got one more, hold on. Stacy says we're putting out a weekly update about the status of the business. That's great. That's really great. Let's see what else. Thanks, David. All right, anyone else have any questions? Again, I'm happy to talk about, let me just dismiss these. I'm happy to talk about any of these tools or anything that you're like, you know what, how do I do X? Again, I just had a limited time to put this presentation together. So I'm happy to, if you have any questions or anything you want to know more detail about, this is your opportunity. And if you're shy, how to get others to speak up. Great, thanks, Debbie. Okay, question Debbie just asked was, in meetings, how do you get others to speak up? So that's a really great question. So, well, before I answer, does anyone want to share how they get others to speak up? And then I'll share what I think are the best practices. Does anyone want to share? And again, I'm happy to allow you to talk, to speak. Let's see if we have any. You know what? Such a quiet group today. No one wants to raise their hand and share? Sure, Debbie, I'll share for you. So the way oh wait, David responds. On our call every day, we have a roundtable of one personal, one professional story. to get the group engaged. Yes, that's a great way to get a group engaged, is to start a roundtable of a personal and professional story to share. To get others to speak up, I'm a huge fan of telling people that if they're not speaking, obviously that's just assuming that they're agreeing. But what I usually do is there's a few ways you can do it. One is I find that, especially the way we are remote right now, is to allow people to collaborate. I mentioned in the seminar earlier, is using tools like Jamboard, where it's think of it like a whiteboard with stickies. It gives everyone the opportunity to speak up by sharing notes. But I actually, when I facilitate, so one of the things I do is I facilitate all of the executive meetings, the strategy meetings. And so what I do is I actually force everyone to speak. And I usually have the CEO, or usually the people who talk the most, to be the quietest. And it allows those that haven't spoken. So I try to make it an even mix. So whoever's facilitating your room, I think the most important thing is to make sure that those individuals who don't normally speak, have them speak first. And if you find that people aren't wanting to speak up, then maybe leverage tools, maybe it's not visual tools, like I was using Jamboard and Mural.co are great tools where people can collaborate and share ideas visually instead. That's a really great way to get others to speak up and share their ideas. Yeah, David said it's not optional, exactly. I'm also a fan, if you're trying to brainstorm, the worst thing I find to do when you're brainstorming is to have people just start shouting out ideas, because what it does is it kind of shuts out those people who don't like to talk. And it also, I feel like it stops the brainstorming sessions. So that's why, again, going back to this whole Jamboard concept, where everyone has to first come up with their thoughts. And then together, I'll usually use breakout rooms in Zoom, where you get a couple of people to collaborate together. They come up with their list. You bring all the break rooms together, and then you come up with, let's say, your top 5 list of brainstorm ideas. And that's a great way to get those people that don't normally speak up to collaborate, and everyone's got that ability to brainstorm and think creatively. I hope that helped, Debbie, to answer the question. Stacy says, how do you keep people in your huddle meetings from giving you a line list of things they are doing rather than priorities? That's really a great question, because when you're in huddles, if they're just rattling off a list of random items, that does not help each other. The question is you have to call each other out. Don't allow people to just rattle off junk. You want to start questioning, especially if you know what their priorities are. Challenge them and say, and what is the number one thing you're getting done? Is this the number one priority? And if they keep showing up with just junk, you got to call them out. It's the only way that you guys can hold each other accountable and make sure that you guys are all staying focused on the highest priority. It's not one person's responsibility. It's the whole team's responsibility. If someone's just like blabbing and not really giving their high level priorities. I don't know if that helped answer the question, Stacey. Anyone else have any questions? Like I said, I think having breakout rooms in Zoom have been very helpful when you want to collaborate by putting people, like let's say you have 10 people on your team, by putting, let's say, 2 or 3 people in a room, have them collaborate, come together. That's a great way to get brainstorming and collaboration to happen. And again, I can't say enough about Jamboard and Mural. I think those are 2 great tools to use. And I know you guys probably are familiar with Jamboard, because you can buy those Jamboard boards and install them in people's offices. So being that this is your industry, you guys are probably very familiar with all of this. Any other questions? Any other questions? Again, I'm gonna share my screen right now one more time, so you guys have my contact information. So here's my information, you guys. Again, call me anytime if you have any questions about anything. I am happy to share with whatever you guys need. And let's see, more Q&A. Nope, I think we have, that's it. I don't see anyone else's hands up. So I'm going to go ahead then, and I will go ahead and finish up this presentation. Again, I thank you guys so much for your time today. I want to thank Herrmann Pro AV. You guys are rock star teams. I love working with you guys. You guys are so much fun to work with, and you guys are rock stars. I thank all of you for coming on. I'm sure you guys have the same experiences working with them because, like I said, Herrmann's a great team to work with. Any questions at all, please feel free to call me, email me. I'm happy to send you guys the tools that I just suggested. And anything else you need, I'm happy to have a conversation with you guys if you need any facilitation help. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Please stay safe. Please take care of yourself. And I wish absolute success for you guys in the absolute future. Thank you.